Hello everyone. I hope you guys are having a good day so far. My name's Eva. I want to thank you for joining me here in this video. Before we get started, I wanted to let you guys know, and I have it linked below. I launched, there's a platform called Podia, and that's where my solar thread sort of creative immersion journey lives. And I made on that platform a community called the Communion Collective, and it's sort of a two-part thing. It's obviously a space for us to create a community space together where people can talk to each other and sort of deepen the journey in communion with others and with the field and deeper with the work. But also, I know there are some people who buy each individual trance meditation that I put out, and God bless you, thank you so much. But I wanted to offer a way to sort of just subscribe to them. So each week, so it'll be 3 to 4 per month. My goal is to do a trance meditation every week, but sometimes things happen. So 3 to 4 per month. They're the same trance meditations that are available for sale a la carte on my website, but they'll be uploaded there. And then I'm also uploading just the instrumental track, so the music I create without the vocal code, in case people are interested in that. And both will be uploaded in WAV file format, which is like a higher quality recording than MP3s, which are what I can host on Squarespace. So with each trance meditation, you'll be able to work in communion with the written code that comes through. And also, there will be a live group call once a month. So we'll do a live session once a month. So even if you're not interested in the trance meditations, it's $77 a month. One group session every month, an hour and a half. I think it is going to be really cool. I'm really excited about making this space. And as some of you might know, even if I hadn't decided to leave my full-time job, it is that company is in a state of great flux. It's a distributor to libraries. We sell books and media to schools and public libraries, and that space is very much coming apart in the dismantling of our current structures. So it's a 200-year-old company. It's not something anyone wants to see, but if I hadn't let go, as my friend Kira said, if I didn't leave, it was going to leave me. So the time for transition is among us all. So I know the transmissions here on YouTube are sometimes kind of sporadic, but I have had a full-time job in which I, for the past at least 6 months, have been managing an entire department, and I'm a team of one person. So I've had that job for 7 years. Every transition, even if it's one that we've chosen, is always a gateway, always a passage, always there is if not a mourning, a recognition of the time that we've spent in places and what it meant to us and what we've learned and how we've grown. And, this coinciding with moving, at least temporarily, to New Mexico has been significant. I read in between Colorado and Taos, I stayed in Santa Fe for a couple of days because this place wasn't quite ready to move into. And I reread C.S. Lewis's The Last Battle. And man, have I felt like every part of that book has been so significant to the time that we're living in and what I've been going through. And if it wasn't across the room, I would get it and we could read from it. But if you guys are interested, I actually want to start a Discord because I have so much word vomit that I want to get out about art and wisdom texts that are fiction and the seers and making all these connections. I've awoken through fiction and movies, narratives, in such a profound way that I would say just as profoundly as working in traditional, what we would call traditional wisdom texts or philosophy or teaching of sages or traditional spirituality. And I think it's a huge part of the work. a huge recognition and such a valuable way to see how we are already living multidimensionally and always have been, and that we never truly forget. We see the reflections of, the awakening story and the remembrance of home through so many different, Tolkien and C.S. Lewis were best friends, and so certainly Lord of the Rings has, bringing the ring to be destroyed where it was forged. Do we not always talk about coming to the center of the origin of separation, that we must come to the center to recognize that we have made it? I think it's such a beautiful, beautiful, God, I love Lord of the Rings, and I love the Chronicles of Narnia, and I love Dune, and there's so many, Twin Peaks, there's so many things that are just like core texts for me and what I've seen in reflection. So I can't promise that the Discord will happen this month or soon. As I'm transitioning into this work, it's still bringing up a lot of fear around finances, around money, around being supported. And in the member video, we talked about that, and we talked about being abundance, and sort of maybe misconceptions we have about receiving, because we think we have to do something first, or be better, or clear more, or get to a certain level before we can receive. I'm not enough yet. I haven't cleared yet. I haven't healed enough to receive. When really the work is to accept ourselves as we are, and accept that we are, the crux of that healing and that conversation in the member video was this concept of deserving. That's a very dualistic idea, and really keeps us from being in the full acknowledgement, presence, awareness, and experience of what it means to actually be that which we see in our visions, that it's not something to receive from outside, but that it is what it is of us. We are that. And so if that's something that you're going through right now, you might be interested in the member channel here on YouTube, because we go into a lot more discussion here. I know I talk in conjunction with the vocal codes in the regular videos, but it's really more of a place where I kind of feel free to just let it rip in terms of what's going on, and how I feel all of this is resonant, trying to not give it context in the sense of finding our identity outside of ourselves in the stories that we're living through, but we must use the symbols of our lives and the narratives that we're going through to learn the lessons in the context of the life we're living in this incarnation. And the codes, I think, are really the way that we reconcile all of time instantly. So those things might be interesting to you. The links are below. I've also scheduled 2 regular live sessions, because I'm about to have a lot more time. Tuesday nights will be Twilight transmissions. It'll be at 7 p.m. Mountain Time where I live, wherever that is for you at that time. That will be just open healing. We'll see what comes through. And then Saturday, mid-morning, 11 a.m. my time, we'll do Sacral Saturday, because so much of the work that I do is really about the release of that center, the ascension of that chakra center, what it means to really be in creation, dissolving, certainly in my case, and I'm sure for people who resonate with this work, abuse to that center, invasion, trespass into that center, trauma, violence, and certainly subjugation throughout the whole field of the divine feminine presence and reality. So if that's something you resonate with, that will be on Saturdays, and they'll be recurring. The replays will be available for members, and all of the links for that stuff's below. If you guys are interested in going deeper, one-on-ones are open. That schedule is available on my website. Personal recordings, written guidance, very, very powerful clearing work. Written guidance, you might not think of as a healing, but I think it's incredibly revelatory. In order to get to the wisdom message, we really reorchestrate a lot of the field to expose that truth underneath, right? That's always what we're doing. I think it's important to remember that healing is silent and instantaneous. The way that it comes out of us into matter, into electromagnetic form, is how we are projecting it. But only the direct experience of the divine reality heals us, and everyone is equally capable of doing that at all times because of what we are. In this video, this one that we are watching and making right now, I wanted to focus on anger, resentment, and desperation as the focus of what we want to bring to the surface and clear. Yesterday, I woke up and, as I've moved into this earth ship, obviously there's a lot to learn about living off the grid if you never have before, and I never have before, and learning solar energy and the systems of the house, and just like there have been some things to adjust and things that have been being fixed. And yesterday I got frustrated after a whole week of being here for the first time. And then I went on a hike along the ridge of the Rio Grande Gorge, which is about a mile east. It's very, very beautiful. The bridge is wild when you see it from afar. When you're on it, you can't really tell how high up it is, but when you're doing the hike. But New Mexico has a unique energy, and I think it's most useful to come here when you really want to dig out deep illusions. And it feels like a kind of crucible. It feels like a kind of reckoning for me to be here, leaving Colorado, which was way more difficult for me than I thought it would be. That place, that John Denver lyric, coming home to a place he's never been before. It did feel that way. A lot of people say about Colorado that people don't want to leave when they get there. But it has such a beautiful presence of being held. Those mountains are so powerful and warm and comforting and just loving, and all of the animals and the animal spirits and the diva spirits and the forest and the water and the angels of that land and all of the ancestral spirits that are there were home to me in so many ways, and leaving that place was so significant. Coming here feels very significant too. This is still the Rocky Mountains up in Taos. This is the tail end of the Sangre de Cristos, but New Mexico has a much different energy, much starker, much more bare, much more uncompromising. I was talking about it more in the membership video also. But yeah, I was taking the walk and I was feeling anger. there's when we go in to do the work and we retrieve these parts of self, we find these illusory aspects of self that are so tightly wound in fear and so strongly holding on to their illusions as reality. It can be, it takes a lot of strength to go in there and meet with it and see it as something that you have chosen, and then to release it and bring enough love so that aspect is willing to let go, or loosen enough to see that they are dreaming, and that being is you, right? But I often come across, and this is very, you might have heard of the term sacral rage, right? This is very tied to abuses in this zone, and to just the deep anger of being in the world. Resentments for not being cared for, just screaming. It feels like there are parts of self that are just screaming and raging at the top of their lungs, and just resisting everything because they just don't believe that if you try it will work. And there's deep rage and anger. And when I get to those parts, they're just screaming. So if you resonate with that, if you feel like there's frustration and there's boiling and there's, you might not feel it all the time, but if there are certain situations you find yourself in, or dynamics or relationships that still bring these things up, this might be very helpful for you. So remember, when we work with spirit, we do not need to clear ourselves of fear before we put ourselves in the presence of spirit. This is very important because I believe this is what alchemy is. Again, we don't bring illusions to truth. We bring them as illusions. We bring the light to the illusions so that we can see that they are not real. But we must acknowledge that we have them. We can't push them away. We can't hide anything from spirit. If we want to be true, if we want to know ourselves truly free, we are already free. And I think it's really important, and you'll hear me do this a lot, that I adjust the words because I think it's really important that we pay attention to the way we're using language and automatically talking, you know, pointing to those false beliefs we have about ourselves that are just running, right? That are just unconsciously, subconsciously running. So we want to bring we bring the illusions to truth. We can't make illusions true. I should rephrase that. We can't bring truth to illusions, right? We cannot make our illusions true because they're not true. But we have to bring them to the light. We have to recognize that we have made them, and we have to forgive ourselves for them. So that is this alchemical process that we practice, and I really believe that the codes are ways to speak across time and space and manifested life, because all time is now. It's not really a timeline. That's just in what our conception of what we've made. The center of everything is everywhere. And so, you know, the multidimensional code, the interdimensional code reconciles that, brings that into union through time and space, that are not what we are consciously of in this incarnation, if that makes sense. So just letting yourself relax. This is always, you know, there comes insecurities to be cleared, wanting to get things right for others to understand you, and sometimes that insecurity can bring through a kind of messiness. And I always want to be in the intention of clearing that also, because I want to be really clear. I don't want to misspeak and have it be misconstrued, or if I make a mistake in the way my ego is trying to convey, you know, when my human body trying to convey this to you, sometimes I get scared that it will not be what I mean. And that also brings a kind of mixed signal, I guess, into my own experience of the work. It doesn't distort spirit, because spirit can't be distorted. It could be ignored, it could be disregarded, it can be covered up, but it cannot be distorted. And so when we open ourselves to align with God's will, there is no distorting God's will. You're either paying attention to it or you're not. And believing that we could distort God is the mission of the ego. And so I like to, as much as it might be embarrassing for me, I think it's important to be honest about what comes through when I'm doing this work, because it's not unicorns and rainbows. It is very clearly walking through my fears of sharing and not wanting it to be taken wrongly or used wrongly, although I have no control over what you do with this. But I just think it's important because, you know, we heal as one. When I do this work, it is my field. I see you all as myself because you are myself. And so I see no separation between or in one-on-one sessions, I see no separation. So I say we. It's not you. We heal as one, or not at all. I can only do this because we share one life. So I think it's important to understand that it's still happening through this vessel, and this vessel is still clearing the distortions and alterations of the ego, but it's equally important to understand that none of those are real and they cannot harm us. And so the more honest we are about illusions, the more comfortable we can be saying, I'm mistaken in this belief. This belief can't harm me because I'm not able to be harmed, because I am an infinite being of God. And so when I'm so afraid that I'm speaking wrongly, or I'm being confusing, or I'm not emitting in the way that I want to as some angel being who's all love and light and shining golden beingness all the time, and it comes out not the way I always want, that I think it's important that we're all honest. We're all honest with that. And I'm sorry that the computer just kind of turned itself off for a second, so the video might have stopped. But I'll timestamp this video because I didn't realize I was talking for 20 minutes. But I think, it all comes out on purpose. It all comes as it's meant to come and be shared. And it's just my hope that it is helpful to whoever sees the videos, and that it, even if you don't understand it, if you don't, your ego will never understand the code, right? It's about the energy. It's about the intention of healing. It's about understanding that there is no illusion that can harm you. And so we need not be afraid of illusions. And we need not be afraid of our insecurities. We need not be afraid of anger. We need not be afraid of resentment. We need to loosen our grip on the belief that that keeps us from happiness. We are happy now. We are free now. We need do nothing to deserve those things. We need do nothing to achieve those things. We need to let go of the attention that we pay to the reality, the false reality of illusions. We can merely let them go, but we don't believe that. But we can practice, and Spirit can show us that that is the way of alchemy. And that's my intention with these videos. As much as I want them to be very beautiful expressions of pure clarity, I know that in our matter world, it doesn't always come through that way. And I want to be honest about how I work on forgiving myself and letting go of perfectionism and letting go of the anger that I might have in myself and the feeling that perhaps I haven't done enough. But I think most people feel that way. So just taking nice deep breaths. We are abundance. We are happiness. We are free. Himayani oyono shami oyono queen noroani mataya sonzoin jayeni tini. Kaya sunjiri tayana ya no rokini sonjini snandrayas nikini kiani. Clearing embarrassment. Understanding that our conception of ourself, what we make of our ego identity, is not our true self. Hianian shonzondatim. Kinayan jono hien sayayono yono ta kiani kini kinoma injiriti. Hiyayasnu hinayan shi sayayanamna tror kinasan jiritani ki. Hiwotumi kayatu. Shin sarais natrauni sonji. Kayanayani tiom nian tor knatra tasanjiri tas natra kayan. Hini nian sonjiritis natraes nishin zindayon. If you would like a visualization to help you with this, what's coming through is like a vast web of like almost, if you know what those movies with Tom Hardy and Venom, how Venom looks when he's morphing around, like the almost liquid, black liquid. See the vibration, see the plasmic frequency, the plasmic sound come in and dissolve that blackness. Just dissolve it from your system. If you see the system as this vast web, this vast mesh, this vast moving, dancing particle light patterns, this yucky stickiness, right? Let that light expand. Let it dissolve the stickiness. Let yourself open. Let yourself flow. Let yourself be free. Hinianiam satuyami. Kinandarato sumsi shanasni. Taniyanamnioni. Kina hina sanitor. Kina inishinikani sinitisa. Sia sanishinitaya sunzut. Kini shanayan sotoyam nait, kini kiani tiandor kinai, himianaya to sunjari isini, Shaya kyono tani kini tinam naku. Shia sani ayanayoto. Kinian shani tin zarai. Hiari kiara uruhit. Himanda yonso tishini hansa isiandaya tianati samnika. Let yourself be in stillness. Let the presence of yourself in God, in the divine, in source, in creator, in however you resonate with all that is, dissolve all else from you. Distractions, let them go. Attack thoughts. Don't entertain them. Let them fall away. Like Neo at the end of The Matrix when he puts his hand up and the bullets just fall. Put your hand up and watch the negative thoughts just drop out of the ground, drop out of the air. They drop out of your field. They're not real. They are only real to you when you give them life, when you decide to believe them. Don't. You're more than that. That is not what we would bring to one so holy, right? So don't bring it to yourself because you are that holy. Believe in your own holiness. That was what the one of the big messages of the trance meditation that I did this past weekend that I released. Claim your happiness. Believe in your holiness. Hiniam nauru, shikin santokum, shinihanaye soyo tonimarit, kinison zotiti, hyorokunai, shorokinis, sion zuyushon ziotokian. Ina yo yinyaya yuniatas, shio yonokiamayoto, himayanituyumni, hioni koyoni mara isuos, si ayitia yukion, natam nata, yana yotosi, shi kianati sani, shi ayisiasi, shi kiani si shi mdo yutini kinayunji, siti sinjiritis nitrato yon, Hia yonoya, hinia noya, kiamaya yoya toyonoya teaya. Shaya koyoto nimata tani anaya tayaya koyoru yini tishini sansiri tis natrayo sonjikias natis. This is very layered. There's financial healing in this. Yeah. Hinia nian dokonima nandrot. Yeah, yosh. It's like it looks like a shalub. Speaking of Lord of the Rings, like being just tied up in this web of meaninglessness. It's meaningless, and we put so much of our life force into caring and being dependent and like raging at systems that make us dependent to be alive, and this debt slavery that we've made of the world. There's so much anger here because it's unnatural. And this, we talk about deserving, going into this. It's not like moving stuff so you can get $1 million. And I'm not saying that's not going to happen to you. But it's like freeing yourself from the conceptions, right? This work that I do is very, very foundational at the level of programming, at the level of writing the code of the world. So it's always going to be what's underneath of what is physically manifesting. What is making this happen? What is the belief that we hold that is making our lives this way? And this is obviously very collective. And we see all sorts of things happening now. But things are getting more expensive as the apocalypse rolls on, right? They're making that web more and more dense so you can't. So they think, and they is the ego. It's just the outward manifestation of those who choose to resonate most closely with separation, with control, with manipulation, with subjugation, with fear, with mind control, with violence, with forcing. Right? But these are concepts held in belief of the self. And so it's within ourselves that we challenge these beliefs and we abandon them. And then we let the field respond to us in the freedom that we emit. And so it doesn't need to look like certain things, but situations work out. And we let it be different. We let it be unknown to our physical self. We let it be beautiful. Yes? had a beautiful conversation yesterday with the lady who is house sitting for my neighbor while she's away. And she had mentioned, God, we had such a beautiful conversation. I was so grateful for it. And she had mentioned her practice of recognizing beauty. And I thought, oh my goodness, yes. This is what we must be focusing on. The beauty in ourselves. And then to see that beauty reflected. The community in ourselves with ourself. The love we share for ourselves with ourself. And then we see that reflected outward. We don't focus on being inside of a maze. We have the capability, even when we find parts of self that are functioning in the ego, functioning in this matter world within that labyrinth, that at the same time, because of what we are and because of how consciousness works, that we're capable of seeing ourselves as the one who made it. And we are already free of it. And this is where our focus must be. Where we are already free, not where we have to free ourselves from. Because it's much easier to do it. I'm not saying you're never going to free yourself if you try to do it that way. I just think it will take a lot longer. And you'll put yourself through a lot of unnecessary suffering. And at this juncture, Spirit never would put you through unnecessary suffering. That's a choice we make for ourselves. But at this juncture of time, where everything's at in the world where we are, Spirit is calling us to freedom. Already free. Already free. I am already free. I am free. It's important. Hinianian chini sumsakinan rihoyonoim disno kunchi kayas nadrayon. Horo nisnondo hini shinikian satus oishi soyakinayon simshato sunsoka. Soya kiara torrokin zinitindia namni. Hinian zindi kanayan shinitian zanit, and gratitude, to remember gratitude. It sounds like a hokey. It sounds a little hokey, but it's powerful. And that dismissiveness about simple practices, that's a mechanism of the ego to make you not do them, to think that it has to be more complicated, right? Let it be simple. Yanian chani, yoyikini miat, niti som sanjara yoro kinas, hiyo numuhani, shoyu tomasni, yo kimiti sis, sinitan, titi kin zonoishi, sanyaya toyamai, yayo sonutium sato, yayo numniendison jaguar. And it feels like a plate on the heart being lifted. Let it go, let it go. Know that you exist without it. Know that you exist without pain. Because on earth we don't believe that's true. We believe to be human is to suffer, that we must. We don't. We don't need to. But we must shift our belief that we need to. Consciously, in every choice. It's work. That's why we call it practice, right? It's why we call it the work. It's effort. It's not difficult, but it is effortful. Kini kieni yama rupo sun sokonimash sansani nitium zani shini sinzio to sumseki. Let yourself be called home. Let yourself be called home. Let yourself be brought home. Let yourself be home. Kini kana nusum janis. Home where all your resources, all of your creations ever are. Kini kana sunzo nito Kini anoin zanish. Saya sunsokina nanayana. Yari yoyotosum zayashi yayasan zakinain. Hindarato sunzokina shanzatu rokian satrata. Let's bring ourselves back into awareness, into the presence of ourselves, in this now. Letting ourselves be at peace. I am healed. I am whole. I am home. I am calm. I am confident. I am happy. I am peaceful. I am strong. I am love. I am abundance. I am. Amen. Very nice. I want to thank you all for joining me in this video. If you're still watching, thank you so much for staying until the end. Thank you so much for being a part of this work. Thank you for being a part of the channel in whatever way you participate. If you watch one video, if you're here all the time, if you comment, if you like, if you subscribe, if you don't, and you're here even for a moment, thank you for being here. Thank you for choosing love. Thank you for being aware of your role and your importance in the world. And I love you very much, and I'll see you next time.